Flavio Bolsonaro can't register his candidacy after being listed as affiliated with Omission. Yes, they registered Flavio as affiliated with Omission. Exactly, that's what happened. Flavio Bolsonaro went to the Superior Electoral Court to register his candidacy for president. When he tried to register, the registration was denied because you're not affiliated with the PL, you're affiliated with Omission. What do you mean affiliated with Omission? Yes, sir, you're affiliated with Omission. Are there any sheep in the chat, folks? Hey, let me ba, right? Also, just don't mess around in the chat. If you disagree, that's fine. Disagreeing is always allowed. There's no problem. Disagreement is part of the democratic process. Anyway, yeah, so what was I talking about? I was talking about Flavio Bolsonaro. Then he said, what do you mean? I'm not registered with Omission. I'm not part of Omission. No, you've been here since the 12th, since yesterday. So you won't be able to register. You change parties. You won't be able to register your candidacy. Flavio Bolsonaro went crazy, right? What's this about and all that? So they investigated. They went to find out the story. The story is more complicated than it seems, right? The first thing Flavio Bolsonaro did was take it to court. In the electoral court, asking to quickly restore his membership in the PL so he could launch his candidacy, so he could register his candidacy, because he pointed out that it was a fraud. And it really was, right? Someone registered it. Remember what happened to an influencer? I can't remember who that influencer was now. I think it was that woman who's against women's right to vote. I can't remember her name right now. She disappeared, but she messed with BTS, the K-pop band, the Korean pop band. And the fans registered her in every polling station in the state, in all the states of the federation, as a poll worker in this year's elections. Her information was leaked, and it caused a huge commotion. And now they did it with Flavio Bolsonaro. They registered him in the Missão party, right? And then he reported the fraud. The Missão party said, wait a minute, it's not quite like that, right? The story is more complicated than it seems. Look at that. Fraud, alerts, and open email. What is known about the false party affiliation of Flavio Bolsonaro? Here's what is known. The TSC reported that the person who confirmed the fraud on the Missão side had the Missão's login and password. So you ask, was it Renan Santos's group that set up this scheme against Flavio? No. I'll answer you. No. Why? Because the initiative to make the registration came from Flavio Bolsonaro's Senate email, his official Senate email. It came from his email. So does that mean the mess is Flavio Bolsonaro's fault? I don't know. Because now both of them are involved, right? It could be both of them. They've really been up to something. They've been up to something. If it was Flavio, it's to play the victim, right? Like, oh, the system doesn't want me to get there, but I'm going to fight against the system. If it was Missão, it was just to mess things up, to stop the guy from registering his candidacy, because they did it 2 days before the deadline. 2 days, okay, before the deadline. And then he almost couldn't register his own candidacy. Imagine that. And imagine how big the scandal would be if Flavio Bolsonaro couldn't register his candidacy for president. Anyway, but it was close. But the main reason is, and there's even more, which is great, he has to register his address. It asks for everything, look. Full name, CPF, voter registration number, father's name, mother's name, and address. And what did they put for the address? Bandit Street, Militiaman neighborhood. Don't believe it? Look there, see. Metropole, Bandit Street, Militiaman neighborhood. Flavio's address in Missão, that was the address. The address they still put on the form, okay? Anyway, so the mission, this is important, look. Missão warned Flavio's office about an attempted fraud 10 days earlier. In other words, it wasn't even the first attempt to commit this fraud. On the second day, Flavio Bolsonaro's official email, had already been used to apply for party membership. The only reason the membership didn't go through was because the guy didn't pay the fee. But the second time he paid, then Flavio Bolsonaro was registered using his information, right? Who did that? Yeah, who did that? That's what the federal police will try to find out. Because Nunes Marques, the president of the Superior Electoral Court, ordered an investigation by the federal police to find out who was the jerk who did this, right? And then we'll see how the situation will be resolved. Renan said this, look, Renan said that Flavio's affiliation with Omission was a stunt by the senator's team. In other words, he argues that it was someone from Flavio's office who did it on purpose so that Flavio would make the news later. And then when he becomes news because of this, he doesn't become news about Banco Master. He doesn't make the news over the payroll kickback scheme, the 6 million mansion he bought in Brasilia, or any of that. He makes the news with, I'm a victim of the system, they're trying to keep me from running. See the play? So Renan cracked the code, as the coach says. He cracked the code, exactly. Lena Santos then said that was his trick. That was something just to make it look like that. And do you think it was just with him? It happened with Lula too, but it didn't work. But it happened with Lula. The fraudster tried to register Lula as a member of the Christian Democracy Party. DC, which also has a presidential candidate. I'll go, her name is, it's at the end of the article here. So someone took all of Lula's data and also tried to register him with the Christian Democracy Party. What went wrong? The party noticed in time and didn't send the registration to the Superior Electoral Court. That was Flavio's problem. Missão accepted Flávio Bolsonaro's party affiliation and sent the notification to the Superior Electoral Court. And then he was officially made a member. He was simply made a member. Do you understand? And then they did the same thing with Lula. But in Lula's case, the party noticed in time and said, no, not here, buddy, don't even try, right? And they didn't register Lula with the Christian Democracy Party. But look, it wasn't the first time this happened either. During Lula's current term, with him already as president, he spent 6 months affiliated with the PL, the Popular Party, Bolsonaro's party, because some crook went there and did this. They took all of Lula's information, father's name, mother's name, everything. The document numbers were all correct. They leaked from somewhere. They took these documents and registered him with the PL. And it took them a while to find out. After 6 months, they discovered that Lula was affiliated with the PL. Then, of course, they undid the affiliation and cancelled the effects of the affiliation because Lula has always been a member of the Workers' Party. He is a founder and has always been affiliated, right? But anyway, that's how it ended up. And to think that Tiradentes was quartered because of the royal fifth tax. Imagine if you become a colony again, what would it be like? That's right, Flavio. That's the big danger we're facing, right? Because they do want to turn us into a colony. And they really want to. Let me see here. There's more super chat. There's lead them. Ricardo, tell us who your candidates are. No, the vote is secret. I live in the state of Sao Paulo. So for senator, for governor, you already know. Vote for president, you already know that too. What's left is state representative and federal representative, right? I'm going to vote for state representative Guilherme Cortes, for federal representative, probably, but it's not certain yet. And for representative, actually the vote that's missing, I've decided, is for state representative, not federal.